Well, hello and welcome to Best Practices in Match Exception Processing. Presenting today will be myself, Stephanie Hilton from SpearMC. I'll also have Randy Johnson joining also from SpearMC and Rajesh from Community Healthcare Systems. So I joined SpearMC recently. I joined in 2022. And before that, I came from a role much like many of you in the audience. I worked at a PeopleSoft customer, Oceaneering. My role was Senior Manager of Global Financial Applications. We actually had a pretty large PeopleSoft footprint there. And so I was responsible for making decisions and prioritizing, compliance projects and stay current projects, enhancements, production support, essentially how to invest our time and resources to best suit the organization. So in that role, about 5 years ago, I discovered SpearMC, and I found they were able to find me the resources that I needed for niche projects, specialized skill sets that I might need, and they were really easy for me to work with. So I enjoyed working with them. I joined them this year, and feel free to reach out to me, contact me with any questions you have. If there's any difficult skill sets you're looking for, anything you might need, feel free to contact me anytime.
Hey everybody, Randy Johnson here, and this is my 6th and last presentation at Reconnect this week. I'm thrilled that Stephanie's taking the lead. I'm also thrilled that our guest of honor, Rajesh, is on along with us. We're going to serve as the panel today. We're going to be throwing most questions over to Rajesh because he is the foremost expert in all things match exceptions. I will say those I've said before, if you've been on any sessions that I've been on, those are my real contact email and phone number. I take contacts from any source. I didn't put my LinkedIn profile, but you can find me. I will say that if you try to call me, it'll go straight to voicemail because it'll think you're spam. However, if you text me first, I'll add you as a contact, then we can talk anytime. So no shortage of methods to reach out to me. I want to go to the next slide and have Rajesh introduce himself. Thank you, Rajesh, for getting on. Oh, we don't hear you. Hey, Rajesh. No audio.
Hello.
I think that's you. Oh, no, that maybe it wasn't. We're still losing you, Rajesh. Well, let me introduce Rajesh while he rejoins. Rajesh comes to us from Community Healthcare System. They're in Northwest Indiana, and an incredible PeopleSoft organization within Community Healthcare System. They've done a lot of really cool things. We've got some neat things to show you that they've put together. Looks like he may be joining back. All right, try number 2. Still no audio, Rajesh. Nothing.
Okay, well, let's keep going through the slides. We have a few more minutes before we are interested in Rajesh's experience, so we'll give him a few minutes to settle his technical issues.
As soon as you figure it out, just chime in, Rajesh. We'll let you introduce yourself. All right. Okay.
So about SpearMC, as you may have heard, SpearMC is a sponsor of Reconnect. They're also an Oracle partner. Their focus is on PeopleSoft. They are Gartner recognized for some of their experience, some of the critical capabilities they have to call out is the PeopleSoft testing, testing as a service or test framework. It's always hard to find the time to do the testing in order to stay current. So this is a really great service that SpearMC offers. In addition, a new service that was introduced here at Reconnect is Oracle Guided Learning. This is an application that can sit above PeopleSoft in the cloud and help resolve a lot of training issues. Kind of a different model than the traditional training documentation with real-time hints and tips to walk your users, especially casual users, right through the application. So if you haven't seen it already, there's some recorded sessions. I really encourage you to look at those. So then today's presentation is PeopleSoft Ap Matching. We're going to present information on best practices. We're also going to take a look at the PeopleSoft Matching Collaboration Center, introduced in Image 40. We're going to conduct some polls in a few minutes to ask you some questions about what your organization is doing today with AP matching. And we're going to have some time at the end to have discussion and answer questions from different organizations about how you handle AP matching today. So here I'm going to turn it over to Randy. Randy's going to talk about the best practices of matching.
Sure, that'd be fantastic. So thank you, Stephanie. We're going to go through these point by point, and here's what I want you to do is start thinking about your organization and where you align in these best practices. You might experience things slightly differently. Best practices aren't always universal. We believe these are fairly thematic across most industries. But think about where you align with what we are displaying and calling out as best practices within Accounts Payable Match Exception processing. Number one is do your best to keep procure to pay within a single environment. There are best of breed products out there that are fantastic, but the more disparate your systems, the more difficult it becomes to govern which one is controlling the matching, which one has the moment of truth and the actual prices, actual quantities. And so within a singular system, all the way from purchasing through receiving and vouchering, we find it easiest to apply a full range of match exception rules. Next, if you can do this, get yourself used to doing purchase orders for almost everything that you buy. A lot of organizations will say they have purchase orders, but they come after the fact. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about start with a requisition. Start with a contract that has a purchase order so that we do have the capability to have a procurement event along with a receiving event and the voucher. If you don't enforce your rules of requiring purchase orders for the things that your organization is buying, you lose a lot of opportunity. You lose the opportunity to drive approval before the purchase, and you lose the opportunity to have pre-coded definition of what that accounts payable voucher should look like when it comes in the door. So do your best to drive towards purchase orders for the majority of your transactions. Next, use a combination of two-way and three-way matching, right? We understand that not everything you buy is something that can be received. Services are not tangible property that you can receive. And there are abilities to set up your matching rules to include both two-way and three-way. There's actually four-way, which includes inspection. Not a whole lot of customers out there that have adopted the four-way as a match rule. You may require inspection, but from a match perspective, two and three-way matching, you can live with both, and we think they can coexist quite nicely. Next, if you haven't applied any tolerances to your receiving rules, your matching rules, we think you should look into that as a way of minimizing your match exceptions, particularly if you experience a lot of small price variances. Maybe you have issues with the way you've put sales tax on purchase orders or not versus the way vouchers are coming in. It may be that certain industries and item types are simply allowed to have up to a 10% overrun, for example. And so if you build in tolerances at the item level, perhaps at the supplier level, that makes sense, you can avoid a lot of match exceptions from even being logged and having to be overridden simply because the tolerance was 0 or 0%. Okay. And then there's a difference between an approval to buy and approval to pay, right? The approval to buy, we like to see that on a requisition. We like to make sure that we are ensuring that there is budgetary control, that there is fiscal responsibility before the commitment takes place on a purchase order. So in a perfect world, you would have requisitions and or contracts in place before you actually engage with a supplier and commit the organization to an expenditure, a liability. The approval to pay comes in two forms, typically. If you have three-way matching, the physical, tangible property, and if the receipt is there, then that is the approval to pay. You don't need to be routing those accounts payable vouchers for workflow approval because the fact that we've received what we ordered and the voucher matches those two is good enough to approve that particular item for payment. However, if you've got vouchers coming in with no PO or vouchers coming in that don't have receiving associated with it, then it makes sense to route those transactions for approval to pay, okay? Approval to buy comes before. Approval to pay only really is needed if you're using something other than three-way matching, okay? Next, utilize workflow approval for two-way match and non-PO vouchers. So just the topic above that's extended. So when you do have approval to pay, and you don't have a receiving associated with it, then route that voucher for approval. And essentially that is the buyer or the requester's acceptance, their receipt of services. We don't like to see non-PO vouchers out there. If we go way back to the first bullet or second, it is ideal if you can have a purchase order associated with every voucher, because routing of vouchers that don't have any information from a PO can be problematic. We need to figure out who the owner of that voucher is. And if it comes without any information from the vendor on who requested this and what the account coding should be, it can be a bit difficult to figure out who in the organization to route that to for approval. Okay, next. We are strong believers and Rajesh, if you don't ever get on audio, it's okay. I've got the screenshots from your dashboards out there. I'll be able to talk. Can you hear me now, Randall? Oh my goodness, yes.
Sorry about all the technical difficulties. I joined by phone just now because I think with the computer something is going on.
We've all been there in this 2-year pandemic. I completely understand, and it's just a thrill to have you, sir. Hey, do you agree with my best practices so far?
Yes. The one, I mean, this is exactly what we follow today at our workplace. The one point where we are trying our best is point 2, use purchase orders for most transactions. That's where the biggest challenge is from departments getting the purchase orders well in advance so that we can avoid all the approvals and exceptions and other things. We are working towards that point, but all of the points, what you explained, it's perfectly what we do at our workplace.
Awesome. We've got a few more. What's next, Stephanie? Yes, the dashboard. So this is what I wanted to brag about that community healthcare system has done. Can't wait to show you the screenshots of the dashboards that they've built to work the match exceptions that are on their list, all the way down to the detail level with actionable links. I was on a previous presentation earlier talking about building dashboards, and we strongly believe that a dashboard's good, a dashboard's great if the information it's presenting can immediately be worked by the individual who's consuming it. And that's what's been built at Community Healthcare System. Can't wait to show you. Okay, next. Yeah, so we know non-PO vouchers happen. We absolutely know. And in fact, sometimes payments need to be made and there won't be a voucher. You're paying your sales tax collected, or you're paying your the fees for the collections through payroll for your benefits providers, perhaps. So we know that happens. We also know that sometimes individuals need checks to be made to a conference, for example, where we might not have a voucher to work with or a purchase order. In those cases, we highly recommend deploying the payment request function that's available in PeopleSoft. As much as you can, push POs for those that are small or infrequent, or a voucher will never be a part of the process. The payment request is an excellent way to still invoke your prepay approval. Keep that for your audit trail purposes, and then automatically turn that through a voucher bill into an accounts payable voucher in the system. Next. Okay. There is and has been for a very long time a tool in PeopleSoft called the Match Exception Workbench. We think if you aren't using that yet, you should at least be using that. However, if you are lucky enough to be on image 40 and are interested in pulling in some selective adoption from 45, we strongly recommend you look at the Match Exception Collaboration Center. A vast improvement to the exception workbench in many ways. You can streamline, you can assign, you can work from both, but from the exception collaboration center, you can filter and reassign work. It's a fantastic tool. We've got a lot of screenshots, and in fact, down in the session details, there are, are we not recording? Son of a gun. All that I just said. Host, are we recording? Oh, and we are. I saw a chat in the window. I think we are recording. So my apologies for the distraction. I get a little flustered when I have ADD, and I like to look at messages that are coming across. Back to this. There is a link down in the links section, the files section. There's this presentation, but there's also a link to Oracle's YouTube channel that has the full recording and information on the Match Exception Workbench. I'm sorry, the Match Exception Collaboration Center. There's also sessions that have happened at Reconnect that you can go back and consume. We've got a few screenshots here coming up. I do want to point you to the Pathable site if you're watching this in full screen, you might need to shrink it. I'm not exactly sure how to direct you. We're going to have you take some polls. And Stephanie, I can't remember if that's the next thing we're doing or the thing after next. Oh, yes. When you take the poll, one of the questions is about match types. And so if you don't know what is referenced in the question, your definition for two-way matching is vouchers and POs, no receipt. Three-way compares the voucher, the PO, and receivers. Four-way adds inspections to that. And then there is a feature called receipt-only matching. And you can do that for vouchers that have no PO. This can be done if you wanted to include them in receipt accruals and you know something's coming, you could do a receipt only for those. It does apply, but it does not, in this case, withhold payment on the voucher. It's simply a way of tracking and maintaining receipt activity against a voucher, but the voucher will be entered as a standalone voucher without receiving required. Okay, so those are matching types. So if you go out onto the Pathable site, go to the polls tab, and then go ahead and submit your votes for each of the, each of those. I have a question while you are out there answering the polls. A question: is it best practice to create a PO after the fact? So you've received an invoice and it should have had a PO. I have a philosophy on this. I believe it is. I believe that you should start every transaction with a requisition, a request, and that request should turn into an approved requisition that then gets sourced to a PO. And I believe that's an appropriate audit trail. It aids accounts payable in knowing how to code the accounts payable voucher, and it invokes the three-way match or two-way match, depending on what it is you're buying. So I think there's value, even if it's after the fact. I also think that it helps to enforce the rules so that whoever it is that was responsible for securing the whatever it is that was purchased should understand that the rules require requisitions and purchase orders, and even having them do that after the fact will reinforce that this is a process that should happen before the actual supplier has been called with a purchase request. Okay. Stephanie, I am unable to check how the polls are coming along. Oh, I think I can. Oh, we've got several answers out there. Yeah.
So let's look at our first one. And what POM image is your organization on? So, okay, we have a good majority of people are on POM image 30 to 39, which is just short of the collaboration center we're about to discuss. And then the next greatest percentage is on 40 to 45.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm happy to hear. I'm happy to hear no one answered what is POM, 0%. That's fantastic. Rajesh, what is your organization on? And this is the financials POM image.
42.
42. So you be part of the 37% that is uber current.
Yes.
Very good. Very good.
Okay.
Someone is having a hard time getting to the polls, and so can you go back to the slide on the instructions for polls? Stephanie, do you mind? I don't know how to.
Oops.
Oh no, not the back to the power. Oh, we lost it. Okay, sorry.
We lost the PowerPoint. Okay, let me get back to our slide.
Perfect. So out on the Pathable site, this is where you came to click the join meeting link. There's a chat and there's polls and the files that we were talking about, the two files, this presentation and the link to the recording. That's where you go and vote. I see chats in the, okay, this is great. Now, if you refresh Pathable, you may be able to see those polls. On to the next, I suggest. So if you don't mind, Steph. Oh, wait, we were gonna, I forgot. Where are we at on the presentation, Stephanie? Were we gonna go straight to the next poll?
We are. And we're looking for the one with, I may have to come back to it because it looks like I'm having a technical problem with it, is what types of matching that you do.
Okay. All right.
I may need to come back to that one. It's
Well,
not showing
I've got it here. I can't display, but it looks like out of the folks that are on the call, 3 of them use most use three-way match. About half of those use two-way. A couple have no AP matching whatsoever. So I hope that's happening in a system outside of PeopleSoft. One actually uses the receipt-only matching. I'm interested to hear from you. Whoever answered that, I'm gonna see if you're listening, and I'm gonna let you take yourself off mute. I'd love to hear how you're using the receipt-only match for vouchers. Whoever it is that answered. If you don't want to identify yourself, that's cool, but you're allowed to take yourself off mute. Shyness. All right, I'll let you off the hook.
Okay, well, maybe we'll talk about that at the end.
Yeah, two Stephanie, do actually use the 4-way match with inspection required as well.
Oh, cool. So does your organization use AP matching as an audit control? Over 50% have said yes, no one has said no, and the rest are unsure.
Well, that's excellent. Rajesh, how about community healthcare?
So when you ask that question, does AP matching use as an audit control? Are you asking, like, I mean, it is, right? Like, because, like, when a voucher is matched with a PO on receipt, you are already auditing, like you are already matching it. Otherwise, it's a proof that, your payment is tagged to a receipt, to a purchase order, everything. So I am a little confused on that question. Like, are you saying, like, as an audit control, like, what is that? Like?
Yeah, if you think of Sarbanes-Oxley, right, do you consider this a key control that's relied upon, and your auditors would choose this as something to review during their annual review?
Yes, they do. I mean, of course, they consider matching as one of the key factors to decide, like, yes, the payment is right.
Yep. Yep. It doesn't look like anyone has answered no to this. And those that were unsure, probably we could have cleaned up the wording in the question, but the real emphasis here is most organizations will consider AP matching as a key control for audit purposes.
Okay, and then another poll. Does your organization use the Match Exception Collaboration Center?
I got 5% yes. That will be cool if we are brave enough to speak up, but most are no. And I know only 37% of you are in the image range of 40 to 45. Here's what I know is it came out in image 40. If you have a lot of match exceptions, there were performance issues, and those performance issues are remediated through a patch in image 45, and that gives you a date range that will restrict the number of rows that flow in. And so I hope that whoever is using it is able to give us some feedback and talk to us about how it worked out for you. And if you had any of those aforementioned performance issues, or if indeed you have pulled in fully once it became available, image 45. All right.
All right, so for the 95% of it not using the Match Exception Collaboration Center yet, I'm going to talk a little bit about what's available before we discuss reporting and open questions. So as you can see, Match Exceptions is a fluid tile. It has a transaction count on the tile of the exceptions available to you. And it's really a tool to keep all collaboration within PeopleSoft among all the stakeholders. And as you maybe already are using the transactions, the purchase orders, the vouchers, the receipts, this is to keep all the discussions, the activity, any questions, all within the same application. So best practice. It has a lot of flexibility, and we'll show this a little bit more in a minute with the security configuration. So it has role and user-based access to work on match exceptions. And there's quite a bit of flexibility in that configuration of how that's set up. And I'll show you that in a moment. And then, of course, it completes the audit trail. It maintains your segregation of duties. In addition to that, it gives you some reporting metrics that you may or may not have had before. So here's the summary page of the match exceptions. There's a status. There's a couple of statuses relevant to that exception. Unassigned, the matching process couldn't find the right group or user. So that's a signal for the administrator to go in and complete that assignment, and then maybe check those rules to assign it automatically in the future. Assigned, someone has got it, it's in their court, they're following through. Open, maybe more than one person has access to it and needs to assign it to the right person for that accountability. Resolved, it's done, then the process is going to pick it up and finish that processing. And match ready is an optional status if the user wants to manually change the status of the match exception. So there's more details related to each of these transactions and the drill down. So here we see that review take action option right here from this page. So in this case, there is the accounts payable or voucher information, the purchasing information, and then in this case, the receipt is blank. So maybe the appropriate user wants to go into this page, and if they have the correct security, they can add and update the receipt right here without navigating out and complete the information needed for matching to process this transaction. So a little more detail about the configurable security available in this process. The administrators would have access to all the exceptions. But then within the security, you can also define exception groups. So depending upon how your organization is set up, you may want certain groups of people to have access to an entire payables business unit. But if you have multiple procurement business units to one payables business unit, then you may want groups of people to have access at the procurement business unit level, or even a ship to location. Within that group, if you want to include or exclude certain users, you have access to do that. You can define groups with access to a single rule or multiple rules. And you can also define your groups by a range of suppliers. And then there's additional data available to you if you want to set this up for your organization for reporting. or as why, how did we resolve this exception? What was the resolution code used? Did we correct the invoice? Did we correct the purchase order? Did we correct receiving? Or any other level of detail that you might want to track to know why you're getting exceptions and to prevent them in the future. So this is available for reporting. In addition, there's a couple more fields available for reporting. We have aging days. How long has this exception been aging? Who is it assigned to? And a flag, yes or no. Is it applicable for a discount? And if it is applicable, maybe you want to prioritize that within your organization. And then as you accumulate, a significant amount of data, there's also options available to archive that data to help with reporting performance. So let's see, does your organization use AP matching data for reporting and analytics? Let's see what we got there. A good percentage, 55% said yes, 14% no, and 32% unsure. So that's good, really high percentage. Oh, it's going up, 59% said yes. I'm going to.
Those are still coming in. I love it. Another precinct heard from. Hey, Rajesh, I know the answer. But I'll ask it anyway. Does your organization use analytics from the match exception data that you have?
Yes, heavily. Yeah, the screen what you're showing is what we do. I mean, I have to say, this was created like 4 years ago. So 4 years ago, we did not have match exception workbench, match exception collaboration center, whatever we have today, right? And then Kibana, there was no Kibana. So at that time, pure grids with live tile data, that was like fancy. So we wanted to utilize those features. So we built it like a single tile. The first tile, what you're showing, like a homepage tile, when an AP manager or a finance director logs into PeopleSoft, just with login, as soon as they log in, they will know, they will see what is the exception count and what is the dollar value stuck. With no click, nothing. Just as soon as they log in, they'll see right away on this homepage, which is nothing but the dashboard. When they click on the dashboard, then we provide more details. We created a few other tiles. It's again pivot grids, that's the base, and then we used App Package to show the live tile data, show like how many POs which are connected to those vouchers and exceptions, suppliers, or is there any receipts connected to it? All those kind of information. Each tile, those are actionable tiles which are mapped with, which are connected with vouchers, purchase orders, activity summary, all those details. Just by going into this tile, someone can easily find out. We provided as much as possible information for AP or purchasing or receiving to find out what's really going on here on this voucher. Why is it an exception? How we can easily fix it. We provided those options. This is one way that we show our departments how to speed up fixing the exceptions. We create exceptions by aging, by group, by AP specialist, all kind of combinations. We created all those. The only downside with this approach in our system is, as you know, it's a pivot grid. The more number of data, it kind of spins. Initially, it was Internet Explorer we were having problems, and when we moved to Edge browser, Chrome browser, it kind of improved. Our plan was to push this whole pivot grid analytics into Kibana until we started learning. Oracle is already working on delivering Kibana specific to match exception. We are so excited wanted to see what Oracle is delivering. After that, we could make a call. Should we have to push our existing pivot grids to Kibana, or enable the Oracle one?
I love it.
But we heavily use match exception information for analytics.
What I particularly enjoy that you did here was really making every detailed row actionable, right? And the ability to take actions immediately on those lines. And I'm also noticing this row that says matching comments. Was that a customization you did to add and track comments for that particular match exception?
Oh, it is. So you see the matching comments. I remember the way how we build it. We have a PS query which fetch the comment from the voucher, and that PS query, on top of the PS query, we somehow connected the PS query result into the related action. I don't know if we created a pagelet in between, but I remember that the query was fetching the comment, and then we directly connected it to a related action. By that way, when someone click on it, they can see the whole comment.
Excellent.
Because comment is one way accounts payable department, purchasing, they communicate with each other. Like, why is this an exception? Hey, I talked to vendor, or I need to make some changes. And when someone wants to look into all those communications, they can see it right from here. We tried our best to provide as much as possible information right at one spot.
Thanks.
Right.
Thanks, Rajesh. I'm particularly impressed with your foresight on this. It is exciting to hear that Oracle is going to be taking the lead on building out Kibana Analytics. We'd all love to consume that, and I think there's an opportunity for the 95% out there that have not deployed Match Exception Collaboration Center to combine that with the Kibana Analytics that come out and have a little mini project where you can enhance your overall match exception processes. Love it. There are 54% at my last count who answered that they too use analytics for tracking their matching data. And I know it's not easy to take yourself off mute, but if you're willing, if there's anyone out there that would like to talk about what they've done, if they've done something similar to what the folks at Community Healthcare have done, love to open it up and have a dialogue. Anyone willing? Don't be shy. There is a question in the chat, Rajesh. Can the comments be added by users as the exception is being worked?
I believe yes, because they're adding comments inside voucher comments. So that's what we are fetching here and displaying it.
Okay, so they would go to the regular entry page or the link to that, create a comment, and then the query would be updated with the latest comments.
Right.
Okay.
And yes, that is correct. Yes. I'm not sure if it is a description 254 field. I think it's a connection with the comments table. I mean, if someone is interested how we are extracting the comment, adding it to a related action, yeah, please reach out to me. I can find it and share more details.
That's what this is all about, isn't it? User groups, love them. I noticed on the previous page, there were like 8 different versions of analytics that you could drive down through. Are they all built with these related actions?
Yes, each one of them are having related actions. So the concept is, what we did is we created a materialized view, and then we refresh the materialized view every often, like every 30 minutes to 1 hour. And then on top of materialized view, we started creating pivot grids. And for some of the pivot grids, we tagged it with a live tile data, wherever we felt like we need some kind of live tile information. And for most of the pivot grids, we made sure we keep these related actions. By that way, it is not just a viewable analytics, it's also an actionable analytics. So we kind of, again, it was all new for us at the time when we were playing with all these options. And again, for everyone on the call, we do have the traditional query scheduled running every day morning, 6 o'clock to purchasing and AP departments, showing here's all the exceptions you need to work on. We have that as well, but we have this option as well. We have both. We tell them, like, use it whatever you like it.
use it, just clear them, right?
Yep.
So that is fantastic, and it is awesome to see the migration, what you've done, and what Oracle is now starting to offer. Really having a similar philosophy, right? And that is, let's present the information in a way that can be consumed at the highest level, drill to the details, all the way to the ability to take care of this match exception itself and get it off the list so that we can move on to the next.
Right.
Here is a link. There's also a link out on the files in the Pathable site here to really it's a very extensive walkthrough of what has been delivered in the Match Exception Collaboration Center. I highly recommend you take the time after this presentation to grab the file, click the link from Pathable, and watch that video if you're interested in that feature. Again, it came out in image 40, and I think a performance enhancement has been delivered in image 45. Yeah. All right. You know, you've been shy, and it hurts my feelings. I'm wondering if anyone at all is willing to take themselves off mute and share some of your experiences. We'd love to make this more of a roundtable and hear from you on specific tips and tricks. We had a little bit of dialogue going in the chat on if it makes sense to do a PO after the fact or not. I gave my philosophy. Interested to hear, what is yours? What have you done to reduce match exceptions, to keep them from showing up in the first place? This is your chance now, folks.
So the first day that we signed up for Monday.com, our department was already able to connect our processes, our software, actually everything.
I love the point. It sounded good. I didn't quite catch it all. Was that Christy that was talking? We lost her. And I did see Rob trying to make a chime in as well. Folks, are we out there? Can you hear me? Stephanie, can you hear me?
I hear you.
Excellent.
Can you hear me okay? I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, I don't necessarily, I guess I'm looking for how other companies might be dealing with this, or if anyone does have this situation, but we're challenged right now with creating POs that have a mix of either receiving optional or required on the same PO. And I'm curious as to how other companies deal with that, because it drastically changes how matching is handled, how the voucher itself is built, and it causes us troubles quite a bit. So how do other people deal with that situation? Is anyone else even allowing that?
Can I ask a clarifying question? You mean, maybe an example would be software, the product, and maybe it comes with installation services, and the services maybe are no match, but the software it has matching.
Correct. Or maybe labor is on one line and materials is on another line. One's receiving and one's not, and so it kind of wreaks havoc with matching and with the way the voucher is built. And how do what happens if maybe you have a mix of receiving and no receiving on the same PO, and then what happens if, well, we have to go in and cancel a PO line for some reason because something's wrong, and what implications does that have on our system? That causes us troubles all the time.
I have a response that from Francine. They segregate most POs so they don't contain the mix. Capital purchases, it is an issue. moving to require receipts for all commodity POs. I think that is the best practice, Scott. Any commodity, any tangible personal product, you can do receiving. Now, there is a feature called desktop receiving, right? So if you're using e-procurement and requisitions, and these things might be ordered and shipped directly to a department, to an office. There is a function called desktop receiving, which extends receiving beyond your receiving dock and allows your users to potentially do that. It's still considered segregation of duties because a requisition is not the PO. And so the purchase order through the purchasing department will still be issued based on an approved requisition. And then the requester is really the best person to let you know that the receipt has occurred. Again, though, that's for tangible property. Splitting services, there's a bunch of chats going on in the chat now. Yeah, it looks like
that's another furball for us.
It looks like a lot of what folks are doing is splitting on separate POs. And so the PO at basically the header level is what I'm reading would be either where you find it's going to be all two-way or all three-way.
So one thing I would like to add about receiving options at the PO is, as long as your categories are, if you are managing the receiving options at the category level, as long as you have your options cleaned up and set it up appropriately, that would help with a lot of matching issues, like both tolerance and also receiving options. But there could be a situation where there is a specific category. At the category level, it is set up as receiving not required or required, but at the PO, you want to flip it, the way how you want it. In that situation, the way how we have a community healthcare system is we have like around 200, 250 categories. We made sure each of those categories are reviewed and then adjusted accordingly. There is no gaps, no issues, things like that, because that is what determine the whole matching process, right? Your receiving options, your matching options, and things like that.
I got a comment from Donna. Looking forward to using Match Collaboration Center. Way too many emails to deal with, match exceptions, notifications. It's a blessing and a curse. We often get requests to turn it off after it's been on for a while because it's just so frequent to the buyers in particular that get inundated.
Is that with using the notification
framework?
Framework, yeah. Oh, interesting. So you've had to turn it off.
No, we're getting requests from the user.
Oh, requests to turn it off. Okay, well, that's good to hear, actually. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and think, they aren't getting hammered with emails. It's the bell that just always has numbers and they can't keep up.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There is a question from Francine about GHX invoice and credits. We do use GHX for our PO dispatch and receiving invoice and all. We have exactly the same issue getting the credit invoice. It comes as debit and we end up paying them. So what we have been doing temporarily, we have been communicating to our suppliers to send the credit invoice in a different way, like an email. However, we reported this issue multiple times to GHX, and we are having a call with them, pretty soon to ask them what kind of options you really have. And we almost everyone, all of us using GHX, we have this issue. When your vendor supplier sends a credit, when that invoice comes to PeopleSoft, it doesn't come as credit. So we ended up paying them instead of getting the money from them.
So we have, I think, I may be misstating this, but one of our clients actually goes out and updates the PO to have a negative line to be applied against when that credit comes in. Are you having to do that in GHX as well?
Now, the problem is, for the credit we receive from supplier, we don't know. Once the invoice comes in, it automatically comes in from GHX, right, into a voucher. And then from our AP standpoint, they simply process it by thinking that it's like any other regular voucher until it all goes to exceptions and a lot of research. They need to figure out what's going on until they realize, oh, this is supposed to be a credit invoice.
So I've got a bunch of activity talking about negative lines. How does that happen? Some do it. I think right now we're looking for, how do you do? Yeah, the total PO can't be negative, but a line can be. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not a GHX expert, but it's either the quantity or the price that has to be negative, and one of them can't be, and it might be quantity. I wish I could give you the exact answer, but anyone who is, price will be a credit, quantity can't be negative. That's what it is. And this is all off the top of my head. I've never actually seen our customer do that. That's all GHX. It's because of the way that GHX handles everything. There's no such thing. I shouldn't say things I'm not entirely sure of, but I believe there's no such thing as amount only in GHX. It is a problem because amount only in PeopleSoft can be a very effective way of doing purchase orders. Do you, in GHX, those users, I'm sorry, in PeopleSoft, do you use amount only in your purchase orders? Anyone doing that feature?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. How do you like it?
It sucks.
Okay. Anyone else hate amount only? Wendy doesn't like it much. Hey, Wendy, what's wrong with amount only?
Well, everything actually. I mean, as long as the user gets it right up front, it's wonderful. But 9 times out of 10, they mess it up on the front end and you're hosed all the way through.
It's asking a lot for users to get things right, isn't it?
It is.
Maybe you should consider Oracle guided learning. That's just a shameless pitch because SpearMC is the reseller for that product. What is the problem? What are they doing wrong, Wendy? Are they not flagging it as amount only, or?
No, they're not. They'll create their requisition. And of course, you know, we're not using the fluid requisition yet, so I don't really know for sure what that looks like. But on the ePro rec, you know, they have to, in some cases, depending on the requisition type they chose, they have to select the box, and they don't. We also have a lot of work management systems where they're feeding us requisitions, and users outside of PeopleSoft do not choose the right thing to integrate into PeopleSoft when the requisition is created. So
if they chose the right thing, Wendy, would your mapping understand which rows should be amount only?
oh yeah, like I said, if they do it right, it's wonderful. If they do it wrong, it's a mess.
Okay. Well,
we do have the same problem. When like someone was explaining on the chat, we do use PeopleSoft Fluid ePro. In Fluid ePro, of course, we have that option, like based on role action, you can set it up if users can see amount only drop-down checkbox. So we enabled it in our production. But like Wendy was saying, like, you know, the problem happens when we get to know when it is too late. Like, you know, you have a PO for one quantity $1,000, and you get an invoice, one quantity $500, and then you get a second invoice. Then someone started saying, "Hey, can this be changed to amount only?" It's already partially paid. It's a mess. We always have sequels ready to flip the distribution from quantity to amount only all the time.
Oh, we make them start over.
you know, I'll put the pain where the problem is. They'll learn.
Try to, yes.
Jill has responded that related services and parts required for receiving when added to the PO require the vendor to bill separately for items not needing receiving. So that as long as your vendors follow the rules, that does seem to help streamline which which vouchers need receiving and which ones don't. I like that approach. I wonder how willing your vendors are to abide by those rules. I think you might be in a relatively large organization with some purchasing power, Jill, and curious if you're able to get the vendors to play along with those rules. I see something Francine is indicating that it looks like there's future functionality. So if you look out at the planned enhancements roadmap, in PUMs that are coming to connect amount only to a PO type. So a specific type where all lines on that PO would be amount only is my guess. Interested to see that when it comes out. Hopefully it'll be in a relatively next release or two. Tolerance amounts, only a basic 100% under construction POs. There's a lot to read there, Donna. Wow. Donna, you've got a great process there. I don't know if you're willing to take yourself off mute, but the topic there is on tolerance specifically for receiving and two-way match and construction types.
Yes, so no receiving. We don't use receiving required for our distribute by amount POs. We set that up for our construction or our services, say for $100,000, and we have $10,000 monthly invoices coming through. They all go through matching two-way between the PO and the invoice, and they are the least of our concerns. Our DBAs for that have been an absolute lifesaver.
Okay, I love it. I love it. Does anybody have something similar except the amounts are variable? Because it sounds like you've got fixed services, the total.
Oh, no, it's variable invoices. It's just we set the limit at the PO value and any amount goes through up until, if it's $100,000 PO, if multiple, like literally hundreds of invoices can go through on that, up to 100,000.
Okay.
If it reaches that 100,000, it goes into exception and we have to increase the PO.
And so that's a perfect example of amount only. So each invoice that comes in chips away at the 100,000.
Like a standing order type thing.
And the only time you're going to get an exception is that last one that goes over.
Yep. And we do utilize accounts payable workflow for the approvals.
Excellent. For two-way or for everything?
For all our DBAs.
Okay.
For amount only. Yep.
Yep. Perfect. You use DBA. Is that it?
Amount only. You distribute by amount.
Distribute by amount.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
I'm gonna add that to my lexicon. Sounds great. Oh, are we over time?
We are.
Uh-oh. I thought the meeting was supposed to automatically end. So, my goodness, everyone, we went over, and I am so thankful that we finally got you to chime in and talk. And Rajesh, thank you so much. I know it was such a hassle for you to get on, and it was truly last minute. He was our pinch hitter and our star. Thank you for joining. Everyone, I wish we could extend this conversation. Maybe we'll have a 2-hour topic next time. All right. Have a great rest of the 2 hours that left in the sessions, and we will hopefully talk to you all soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye now.